So you're looking for the best monitor for Xbox X, best monitor for PS5, or best monitor for Xbox Series S, but you're confused about what to get. What resolution should you get? And what's all this talk about 120 Hz or 120 FPS and HDMI versions? Are there differences between Xbox and PS5 when looking for the best gaming monitor? What kind of specs and features should you be looking for as a console gamer? Don't worry, we're going to go through all this and give you specific recommendations at every budget level to help you find the best monitor for PS5, Xbox X, or Xbox S, and that's coming right up. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Today we're covering the best monitor for Xbox X and Xbox S and the best monitor for PS5. And I'm covering these because ever since I released my Best Gaming Monitor 2021 video, I've gotten 3 questions over and over again. What's the best monitor for PS5? What's the best monitor for Xbox X? And what's the best monitor for Xbox S? So today we're going to answer those questions and help you understand the differences between the consoles as well as between consoles and PCs when it comes to buying a monitor. Now, while the answers are unfortunately somewhat complex, I'm going to work to break everything down into simple terms so that anyone can understand it. And with that, let's jump into it. Let's do a very quick review of the key terms that you need to know, starting with monitor resolution. Now there's 3 main monitor resolutions for consoles. There's 1080p, then going up there's 1440p, and finally 4K. The first major difference between the PS5 and Xbox consoles is that as of the time of this video, the PS5 does not, and I repeat, does not support native 1440p resolution. So PS5 owners, you want to focus on getting either a 1080p monitor or a 4K monitor. Now for Xbox owners, the best monitor for Xbox X will likely be a 1440p or 4K monitor, while the best monitor for Xbox S will either be a 1080p or 1440p due to the lower overall power of the Xbox S. Refresh rate. The new generation of consoles has introduced higher refresh rates. Whereas the previous generation was locked to 60 Hz refresh rate, you can think of this as effectively 60 FPS. The Xbox X, Xbox S, and PS5 all allow for 120 Hz refresh rates as long as your monitor supports the required HDMI version and you enable the higher refresh rate in the console settings. Here's the important part. If you want 120 Hz at 1080p, your monitor must have at least HDMI 1.4 or better. If you want 120 Hz at 1440p, your monitor must have HDMI 2.0 or better. And if you want 120 Hz at 4K, your monitor must have the brand new HDMI 2.1 version. I'll list all these out in the description just so there's no confusion. Now, unfortunately, there's not yet a lot of monitors that support HDMI 2.1, but I do have some recommendations in this category. Now, what games you play will influence how important getting 120 Hz instead of the base 60 Hz really is. If you're really focused on competitive shooter titles like Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone, then I strongly recommend getting a monitor that will give you at least 120 Hz. If you're more into single-player games like RPGs, then you might decide that the most important thing for you is getting the highest resolution to increase the image quality of your experience, even at the expense of the higher refresh rate, which you may not even miss. Now let's talk variable refresh rates, or VRR for short. VRR helps alleviate what's known as screen tearing, which is what happens when your monitor is ready to refresh the screen, but the console's not yet ready to deliver a frame. The Xbox X and Xbox S currently support VRR, while Sony is planning on releasing an update for the PS5 sometime at the end of 2021 to enable it. You'll want a monitor that supports AMD FreeSync and can run FreeSync and 120 Hz at the same time. The monitors I'm going to recommend meet this requirement. Response time is the time it takes for a pixel to go from one color state to another. The shorter the time at the native speed, the better. So when you see a monitor list 1 millisecond, they're claiming that the monitor can do this color state change in 1 millisecond. But do beware that many monitors have an overdrive setting that, while it speeds up response time, may lead to other display issues and are generally not worth using. Panel types. Now, while there's 3 main types of monitor panels, TN panels have largely fallen out of favor in recent years. Instead, you'll find that fast response time IPS panels with their more vivid colors and newer technology VA panels with their slightly slower response times but significantly better contrast dominate. Now, some people disagree with me, but I personally think there isn't a lot of difference between the best VA and IPS panels, and I'd rather focus on other factors instead. Curved versus flat. Now, while this topic's relatively simple, the key thing that you need to know is that monitor curvature is expressed in R, with the smaller the number, meaning a more curved monitor. So 1800R is less curved than a 1000R monitor. Monitor size and aspect ratio. Now, the most common monitor sizes are 27-inch and 32-inch for all of the resolutions. While 24-inch 1080p monitors are common enough to recommend, they're not as common at 1440p and 4K, and as a result, I'd steer clear of them at those two resolutions. We'll also look at some 43-inch and 48-inch and larger TVs as well for those who want the full couch gaming experience. Right now, consoles only fully support the mainstream 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio, and so I do not recommend ultra-wide or super ultra-wide monitors for console. Let's jump into our product recommendations. Remember, all the links for all of these products are always going to be down in the description. Simply click the Show More button and expand out that description. If things go out of stock, I will, of course, add in alternatives. Goodness knows, 2021 has been the year of things going out of stock, but one of the monitors that's just come back in stock that I am super excited about is the AOC 24G2 IPS monitor. It's a 24-inch monitor. It's a 1 millisecond response rate, 144 hertz. So you get your refresh rate that you're looking for at 120 hertz on the console. FreeSync, so you get the VRR. Now, it does have HDMI 1.4, but that should be fast enough to get you 120 hertz at 1080p. And the great thing about it is it's only $189 over at Amazon right now. I will include links to other retailers as appropriate as well to get you the best price. This is a monitor that I recommend at 1080p budget gaming for PC gamers, and I'm excited to recommend it to console players as well. So if you're looking to just get into the game at not a whole lot of cost, this is one to check out. I want to give you a quick note on this panel's big brother, the AOC 27G2. This is the 27-inch version of the same panel. Now, this one has NVIDIA G-Sync on it, and while it also has adaptive sync on it, it's not specifically certified for FreeSync, and so I wouldn't necessarily go for this one. I've got a better recommendation at 27 inches coming right up. Of course, there are other really good 1080p monitors for the Xbox X, Xbox S, and PS5. And one of those is the BenQ Mobius EX 2510. It's a 24.5-inch, 144 hertz IPS gaming monitor with 1 millisecond response rate and FreeSync Premium. Now, this is a really phenomenal monitor. The reviews of this are all about the fact that it's got a dedicated mode for 120 hertz 1080p console gaming. It has a specific mode for it. It's got really accurate, fantastic colors, great ergonomic design to it, by the way, fast pixel response time, really wide viewing angles. So this is particularly good if you're playing with some friends who might not necessarily be able to stare right at the screen with you and they're off to the side and you're taking turns. Now, of course, IPS panels always have weaker contrast than VA panels. However, I really think that for the money, this is probably the best 1080p console monitor out there right now, unless you want a 27-inch one. And if you want a 27-inch one, I would recommend the Mobius EX 2710. Now, this is just the same monitor. It's a 27-inch version of it. I will note that due to the pixel density, you're going to get slightly lower pixel density at the 27-inch, right? Just a little bit larger, same amount of pixels. That wouldn't necessarily scare me off at all. I think you're never going to notice the difference, but some people have claimed that they can notice a very, very slight difference between the two. Personally, I like the 27-inch better. $270 for the 27-inch right now and $230 for the 24-inch right now over at Amazon. Links to other retailers will be down in the description. Okay, let's start off 1440p monitors. We're going to start off at the budget. Remember, if you own a PS5, this section's not for you. Go ahead and skip ahead to the 4K, Xbox X, Xbox S folks. Stop here. This is probably the sweet spot for you. Hopefully one day PS5 will support 1440p natively, but not today. Let's start off, remember, links down in the description. Gigabyte M27Q. This is a really phenomenal budget 1440p monitor, a great performer. I recommend this also for PC gamers. It's great for Xbox X and Xbox S as well. 170 hertz, so you're getting your 120 hertz refresh rate, HDMI 2.0, remember that's what you need, FreeSync Premium on it, and they claim a 0.5 millisecond response rate. Now that's MPRT, not gray to gray, but if you want more on that, check out my best gaming monitors guide. I go into more detail about that. But it's got a pretty good response rate nonetheless, especially for a budget panel. A couple of drawbacks on this one. The ergonomics, not fantastic. Now you can always get rid of the stand. It's got a VESA mount on the back, so you can get a monitor arm if you want for it. It does have really good viewing angles on this one and a really nice color gamut as well. It's got a pretty wide coverage of the color gamut. And it's best in well-lit environments. Now, there is a 32-inch version of this, and it's the Gigabyte M32Q 165 hertz gaming. It's essentially the same monitor. The one difference between the two is that the 32-inch for $400 over at Amazon right now has a black frame insertion feature into it. So this is because of the very fast response rate for the monitor. Sometimes you get a little bit of blurring. If the black frame insertion will just help dull that down a little bit, so it'll help really kind of sharpen those images up. Otherwise, this is another phenomenal performer. Same challenges as the 27-inch version, better in well-lit environments. Now, both of these monitors, there is one big note here. Some users report if you get a monitor with the older firmware on it, the firmware was updated in February of 2021. If you get, for some reason you get one that's been in stock for a while and hasn't been sold, some users report having some challenges with getting the full 120 hertz out of it. All you got to do is you use the included USB-C cable with the monitor, you plug it into a PC, you download the software from Gigabyte's website, and you can update the firmware on this, and it's pretty easy to do. I'll include links down in the description directly to the product pages at Gigabyte support for this, so you can download it if you get it. Let me give you one more budget 1440p panel, which is the LG 27GL83A-B. My goodness, these monitor names are so original, aren't they? This is a really good, this is a nano IPS panel. It's IPS. 1 millisecond response rate, and the reason they can get 1 millisecond on this, and this I believe is gray to gray, is because of the nano IPS nature of it. 144 hertz refresh rate, plenty for the 120 hertz that you need for the consoles, and on top of that, it's got a really wide color gamut. $346, let's call it $350 over at Amazon right now. The price does fluctuate a little bit, but typically we'll find this around $350. It's pretty bright too. It's got a 400 nit brightness. It actually has very good ergonomics on this one, and it's got two HDMI 2.0 ports. Now, while of course it says, as you can read here, it says NVIDIA G-Sync, it also has AMD FreeSync as well on it. So if you want to use this in the future for your PC, you could. It's got a lot of flexibility to it. But this is another alternative, and I know I always get dinged for not including enough LG monitors. I know you got a lot of LG fanboys out there. Well, here you go. This is a really good pick for a console. All right, now let's jump up to what I consider the absolute best of the best of 1440p gaming monitors. And I think if you're looking at the console, especially Xbox X, Xbox S, before you jump into 4K, this is probably the best stop for you. And this is the Odyssey G7. Now, anybody who watches this channel knows I just rave about this particular monitor. It's a VA panel. It has absolutely incredible contrast. And even though it's a VA panel, its response rate is lightning fast. It's one of the fastest response rate monitors out there, only topped by the one of the Alienware monitors, which I'm not going to recommend because I think it's too expensive. I think you, at that point, just go 4K. But the Samsung Odyssey G7, 240 hertz refresh rate. So if you ever decide to put this on your PC instead, this thing is just amazing, amazing refresh rate on it. But plenty for 120 hertz. HDMI 2.0 on this. There's not much else to say other than it's got a really tight curvature to it. It's a 1000R curvature. And a lot of people absolutely love it. Some people don't, but it's very, very immersive. And it comes in both a 27-inch version, currently selling right now for $685. I think the list price is $700 on it. Although oftentimes you will find it go on sale down to $600. So keep an eye out for it. And then there's a 32-inch version of it, currently selling for $740. At the current prices, I'd go and get the 32-inch version of it. Again, very similar, identical, really, panel, phenomenal performer. Just note, there is also a red version of it called the Faker version. And it doesn't mean the monitor is fake. There's a League of Legends player, his name is Faker, and so they did kind of a monitor with him. And this one often will go on. Right now it's on for $700, so it's actually more expensive, which is a little unusual, but it will often go on sale for even cheaper. So just keep your eye out on that one as well for it. Overall though, if you want what is the best of the best in terms of 1440p gaming monitors, I don't think for the price you can beat the Odyssey G7. Let's jump into 4K gaming monitors for console here. Now, links, of course, remember, down in the description. We're going to start off with the budget ones. Now, at the budget level, these are only 60 hertz. So they're not going to be 120, they're 60 hertz. So I still think this is probably an appropriate level for the Xbox S. But if you're looking for the higher refresh rate, I would jump back to 1440p for Xbox S because I don't think it has the performance necessary to use some of the monitors we're going to jump into. But at the budget level, we're going to start off with the Asus TUF Gaming VG289Q. Now this is actually a 28-inch monitor. It's actually quite a big monitor. We actually own this. We use it for video editing here, and my wife also plays World of Warcraft on her video editing PC sometimes with it. It has got to have one of the crispest pictures I've seen, really vivid details on it. The color gamut is pretty wide on it. AMD FreeSync, very high pixel density too, by the way. I think that's part of why the picture looks so crisp on it. And honestly, I just think for the price, this is one of the best 4K monitors if you only want 60 hertz. So if you're mostly into single player games and it's mostly for you about the image quality, this is definitely one to look at. As long as you don't, you're not going to miss the 120 hertz. Now let me give you an alternative just in case this monitor sells out, and that is the Dell S2721Q. It's a 27-inch, so it's a little smaller, but very similar to the Asus TUF Gaming. Has a slightly narrower color gamut, but still very, very good. What else about this? This probably has a slightly more usable HDR mode than the Asus does. I would say the Asus is probably not usable, but the Dell one, especially on a console, should be. Both of them have really wide viewing angles. Overall, this is just, AMD FreeSync on this. This is a good replacement if the Asus is out of stock, and they're very, very close together. Okay, here we are. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about 4K HDMI 2.1 monitors and OLED TVs. These are the best of what's available right now. Remember, HDMI 2.1 is so new that some of the monitors are still yet to come out, but there are some ones that so far have really impressed. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Aorus FV43U. This is a 43-inch gaming monitor that Tom's Hardware in their review called the king of the 43-inch class. They were absolutely blown away by this thing. It has a 4,000-to-1 contrast ratio, which is that's insane. Absolutely huge color gamut on it. It's extremely bright too, 1,000 nits. And at the same time, it's got class-leading black quality and accuracy so that even in a very dark room, you're not going to see some of the hazing effects that you can get on other panels. It has the full suite of options, including a black equalizer, local dimming to increase contrast even further, really accurate calibration out of the box, really good built-in speakers, actually. They actually took the time to point that out, so it must be pretty good. Overall, some of the only drawbacks are it's not an actual TV. So if you're looking for some of those kind of smart TV features, no, it's still a monitor. It's still a monitor. You're still going to need a box to drive it. You're probably not going to drive it on its own. But for $1,000 over at Amazon, now this retails for $1,100. Right now it's on sale for $1,000. It's also on sale for $1,000 over at Best Buy. I'll include links to all the relevant retail outlets so you can make your decision. But honestly, if you are looking for something to absolutely kind of blow you away, this is the first of two that I'm going to show you. That is the LG OLED C1 series, just released. And it's phenomenal. Of course it's phenomenal. It's an OLED panel for $1,300, starting at the 48-inch version and working your way up to the 83-inch version. Now, it retails for $1,500. Right now, it's on sale for $1,300 at Amazon, at Best Buy. I will include links to various retailers down in the description. What's so great about OLED panels? Well, this is the future of panel technology. That's part of why it's so expensive. But on the other hand, has nearly instantaneous response times, putting even the fastest gaming panels to shame. Comes with FreeSync and HDMI, variable refresh rate on it on the HDMI 2.1. Has a game optimizer mode which reduces input lag, get this, beyond even the fastest TN panels, which is amazing. By the way, make sure if you do get this, that's the mode you use when you're connected to your console, because in other modes, the input lag is not great, but they're better for movies and things like that. Now, of course, the color gamut, it's pretty good. These panels are not, the best thing ever. There are areas where LCD panels do kind of outshine them. And one is the color gamut. Well, the color gamut is still very impressive. Don't get me wrong. It's not quite as wide as some of the best gaming monitors and best color editing monitors out there. And I will note that just about every reviewer I looked at, they all commented that the calibration out of the box was not good. So you're going to spend a little bit of time setting this thing up. I will include some links down in the description of some calibration settings that they recommended. Maybe you could just start off with that. But overall, the color clarity, the vividness, the instantaneous response on this, it's probably the best 4K experience that you're going to be able to get now and probably even a couple years into the future. And again, this is the wave. This is where everything is going. If they can continue to get this technology cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, which they have been over the last couple of years, and eventually get into gaming monitors, we'll see it there. But right now, 120 hertz, 4K experience, here you go. That's our look at the best monitors for PS5, Xbox X, and Xbox S. If you got value out of the video, remember to give it a like. It really does help out the channel. And of course, if you like this kind of content, subscribe. Click the bell icon to get notified when we go live. And of course, if you have ideas about monitors I missed or monitors I should have considered, down in the comments, I would love to hear from you. We definitely read all of the comments, and I try and get back to everybody personally if I can. With that, I will catch you on the next one.